Welcome everyone. Please give big round of applause for Evan talking about Playable Ads.
Cool. Hello everyone. My name is Evan and I'll be talking about hacking mobile ads. So quickly, who am I? I'm a student at UNSW. I'm currently in 5th year. I study computer science and maths, and I've been interested in security ever since my 1st year. I'm also the president of the Security Society this year, so if you find this talk interesting, you probably find our other students interesting as well. But enough of that, I have a confession, and that is that I don't like ads. And before you all crucify me and you say, oh, but ads are what makes the world go round and so forth, I don't like bad ads. And those are ads that are irrelevant, not interesting, and more importantly, deceiving. So first, let's quickly do a roll call. Put your hand up if you play mobile games on your phone. Cool, okay. Now, keep your hand up, don't put it down, if you, so it's about half of you, okay. Keep your hand up if you've played a game that has ads in it. Okay, about one hand down. Okay, now, what about, do the games that you play, do they have playable ads like a video or a game that you can actually play? Okay, so it's still about the same amount of people, which is about 3/4 of the room. Okay, cool. And for the people that don't know, this is what one of these ads look like. And so in this game, you're skiing down this mountain, and you just sail them down, you go through the flags, and then once you've finished the level, before you go to the next one, it displays you with an ad. And in this case, it's an ad for blackjack, and you can watch about 5 minutes before you have to skip, or before you can skip, and then you can continue the game as you wish, right? So this is kind of like what a video ad would look like on a phone. And then you can finish the level and continue. Cool. And here is an example of a playable ad, right? So this game is, let me play it. This game is called Train Conductor World. And in this game, you have to connect the trains to the right tracks. So, you know, number 3 goes to 3, and so forth. And the blue ones are number 1, they go to the top. And then the red ones are number 2s, and they go in the middle. And the aim of this game is to get all the trains delivered without any of them crashing. This is a problem if you crash because the level ends and you can't continue. So now I have to keep fluffing, waiting for this thing to pop up. There's some things you can do in the game, such as like tap on the trains, like here, and you can stop them so they don't crash. This game is also made in Australia, in Melbourne, by a team called the Voxel Agents. And I really love the game. It's really fun to play, and I've basically finished it many hours. Anyway, eventually you get a train like this, which has like a special prize in it, and these are like the rewards that you want to get. But you might accidentally crash, and then if you want to continue playing, you can press the undo button, which will present you with like an ad, right? So it's like you can trade an ad, you give them some money, and then they'll let you get the reward. And in this case, we have this block doku game, which is like Sudoku, but with blocks. And you just play along, and you try and make like squares of 9 or lines of 9 and so forth. But you're here playing along, and then suddenly you get presented with this like app store where they want you to try and download the game, right? But the important thing to note is that it didn't actually present you with any prompt to try and download this game. It just sent you straight there after a certain amount of time. I didn't press the play now button or anything like that. It just goes, okay, here you go, like, just download the app, right? And this is what I mean by like deceiving ads. They make you try and download the game without your permission, which I don't like. But anyway, the ad's about to finish, or sorry, the game's about to finish, and now you get the box. And now that you have the box, you can claim it, and you have the tile, I think is the, can make it a bit louder. Okay, cool. So let's move on. So why am I doing all this? Why am I ranting about ads? Well, it's because we have a problem, and that problem is there's a lot of these bad ads, right? You'll get them everywhere. And they frustrate me a lot, so I'm going to make them frustrate you a lot as well. So here are some examples of some other ads. And I'm going to categorize these ads as like easy to play, brainless games. And in this one, it presents you with two options. Might be too loud. Here it presents you with two options, and you kind of have to make a choice of what object you want to use to like progress through the game. And in these ads, they play themselves, so they incorrectly use the key on like the ribbon or whatever it is on the right when you should use it on the handcuffs and so forth. They kind of tease you in this way. And here's another one that like says, we're looking for smart players. And you know, there's this game where like you got to get the humans up to the top, but they always go through the wrong way. And very obviously, you want to go up and through the right and just go straight up. But in this effort to try and like tease you into playing the game yourself, they always do the wrong thing, and then eventually like you've failed, and it's like, oh, you should play this game now. And then finally, there's another one of these ads. It's got at the top, only 4% of people can solve this level, which is very likely just some random stat they've pulled out. And they've got another person playing this game, and they're just like incorrectly always doing the wrong things. So in this case, they try to put it together. It's like very obviously you could do it, right? And just like in the as it's about to run out, it's like, oh no, we've missed, and you want to try again by pressing play now, right? And there's a lot of these like deceiving, psychologically malicious ads that you find, and you know when you play these games a lot, it just kind of gets really annoying. And here's some other ones. This is a phone VPN ad. And it's like, oh, are you not feeling safe because of hackers? I'm a dog and I can help you, right? It's just like, sure. It's like, I can protect your data when surfing the web. It's like, even on public Wi-Fi, which isn't really correct anymore unless you're using like really old websites that don't use HTTPS.
Where did I get that?
It's called the Phone Guardian. Yes. Yes, yes. And the other thing I like is at some point in the ad it says, if you see the VPN sign on your phone, it means you're safe, which is very debatable, right? Like, especially when it's advertising this as like a free VPN, so it's just kind of like, are you a customer or like what? And here's an example of a playable ad, so an annoying playable ad, where you can like play along and you drag the little jet and you shoot everything, and then suddenly you die. Like, I don't actually know why I died in this. I can't remember why. But like straight away, as soon as you die, it sends you to the download page, right? Even though there's like a try again button and a play now button and whatever. So like, no, you're going to download this game today, which is just, no, I don't want to download this game. I don't like it. Anyway. Amidst all of these ads, there are some good ads that set a good example. And one of them that I like is this one. It's like a whole game, and it's just funny, right? It's like, it's got catchy music. It doesn't like force you to do anything. It just, you can just go along and watch it. I love it, right? And this song is stuck in my head. Apart from that. It doesn't like force you to do anything, and even though it's brainless, it's got vibrant colors and catchy music and whatever. I like this ad. It's over, great. Okay. And these are some other playable ads that I actually like. So this one is just like a Bejeweled style game, and you can swap the gems, and when you swap them, you collect patterns and you fight the dragon. And after a while, you hit the dragon, you lower its HP, but there's also like these people at the bottom which you can tap, And when you tap them, it like also attacks the dragon. And you'll notice there's also like a hand that says like what you should do. And the game doesn't force you to do any of this, it just gives you suggestions. But then once the game is over, it doesn't like force you to do anything. It just says like, great job, you did it. Do you want to like keep playing the main game? It's like, well, I don't want to keep playing the main game because I'm playing this other game. But like, great job for having a nice ad. So yeah. And my favorite one is this Angry Birds Dream Blast game. And this is because they have, it's just a very nice interface. It looks nice. It's very simple. It doesn't like have a lot of like flashy lights and whatever. And you can just play along much like the other game without following the advice. So here I'm basically always doing something different than what it suggests me to do, which also means this lasts a very long time. But eventually, like, you can tap the different things, and it's got like various amounts of things you can do. Like if you get more than 4, I think, the red Angry Bird pops up, and then it does something more special. You have to like get elements of 3 together, and you know, it doesn't do things automatically for you. But eventually, we'll get this blue one up here. And once you get that, like you can click that one, and then you can get the greens on the side, and now you've like unlocked the next stage, right? And this is the other nice thing about this ad. Like, it's not just one simple level. Like, there's actually 2 levels to this. And then I'm gonna like speed this up because this is really, really long. Cool, and then in the second level, like you unlock it, and then it gets to the bottom, and it goes, hey, you finished, do you want to play the real game now? And you're like, cool game, but no. Okay, cool. So some of you might be asking like, okay, if you don't like ads that much, why don't you just get an ad blocker, right? It's like, well, I don't like ads, but I also like the rewards from the games. So if I block the ads with an ad blocker, I'm not going to get any rewards. If you're trying to finish a game faster, you kind of need those rewards. So an example of this is like before, where we have the reward over there, and when we crash and it gives us the option to undo, that option is not going to be there if we have an ad blocker running, right? So an example of this is here. So in this case, we like crash, but I've like disconnected my internet, so it doesn't load any of the ad servers. And as soon as it crashes, it doesn't display the option to undo, right? Which if you have like one of those gift boxes that you could have gotten, you're just going to completely lose it, and you're not going to be able to get it. So this was kind of my like aspiration. Like, so like what do I want to happen? Ideally, like, I have an ad that looks like this. It's like playing a video and whatever. What I want is to be able to replace it, right? Like, show me anything. I want a big smiley face. Like, it'll make me happy when I see the ad or something like that. And like, better yet, like, oh, let's just remove the timer, right? Like, I want the ad to bypass as soon as I see it, right? Or like, I don't want to install ever, or et cetera, right? So all of this got me thinking. What are these ads like really running? Like, could I change how they work? And how do I know they're not just running Bitcoin miners in the background? Like, sometimes my phone would get really hot, and I'm like, this is just like a very simple game. Why is my phone like cooking eggs? Like, it shouldn't do this. And so like for this, I needed to plan out like what am I going to do? I need a scope, right? Like, my scope is what games am I going to run? So you've seen one before, which is Skiing Yeti Mountain, and that's just a very simple game. It's very nice to play for me, and I just love it. The other nice thing about this game is that the developer who made it was affected by the Nepalese earthquakes. And so they decided that, like, when they released it around this time, they decided that, I can just donate all the proceeds that I make from this game to this cause, right? So every ad you watch on this game would actually go to something like it's basically a donation every time you watch this, which I thought was really nice. And the other the other game that you would have seen me explain before in a very long video is this Train Conductor World. And for me, it was kind of like giving back to the Australian game community. which again, I felt was nice. And the nice thing about these two games is that they're both running the same ad framework, which was the Unity ad framework, which meant I could just focus on this one specific thing, and if I wanted to extend later, I could take a look at other things. The other thing I wanted to do is I only wanted to look at the network. I didn't want to be like hacking the phone operating system or any servers or be like reverse engineering the games or doing anything illegal. In this case, I'm just like intercepting the packets on my own network and just letting it continue as normal. The other thing you might be asking is just why not play other games if you're trying to get as many ads as you want? And there were like 3 reasons for this. 1 was because it was using the same network, which just made it easy. 2 was because I liked playing the games. It made the talk a little bit more enjoyable, right? Until I got sick of playing the games. And then thirdly, some of the other games I downloaded just didn't work when I would try to inspect them. And I think this is because they had their certificates pinned. So what do I mean by this? So normally you have your phone, it connects to the internet, right? And I'm this person in the middle here, right? What I want to happen is that instead of a phone connecting to the internet, I want the phone to connect to me, and then I can send all the requests to the internet. And when it connects to me, I can say, hey, before you send this out, I want to see what you're sending, right? And before you get anything, I want to see what you're receiving. So I can actually take a look and like inspect what's really happening. So the way to do this is using the man-in-the-middle proxy. It's a Python framework that you can install. It's open source, and it's got a great community, so it's quite handy for me. So great, I install a man-in-the-middle proxy, and I get this to come through. But I have a problem, which is thanks to like TLS and SSL and HTTPS, everything was encrypted because everything now uses HTTPS, like hopefully. And the way HTTPS works is that the browser you're using comes with some certificates that you implicitly trust. And then those certificates are used to sign some other certificates, such as the ones that the server gives you. And then these certificates are used to create keys for encryption, right? So now you and the server can use that shared secret to share encrypted data. But of course, this big encryption thing is a big no-no for me. Like, I don't want to encrypt anything. I just want to like be very vulnerable, like screw encryption. So MITM proxy just says like, sure, here's a certificate you can install and bypass all of that. And it's like, yes, this is what I want. So now I have a certificate on my phone that basically I'm basically hacking myself. I should remove that afterwards. And a certificate on my proxy, and this means that I can read all the data that comes in. Cool, and then I put it all on a Raspberry Pi, and I like chuck it at the back of my room, and now I can connect to it whenever I want, more or less, as long as I have Wi-Fi, and like I'm good to go. None of this was easy, I assure you. Like it took a while to get it all set up and like have the right parameters and everything. But it's not too difficult either. Like if I could do it, I'm pretty sure you could do it too. Cool. So now that I've set all this up, I can start reading things. I actually want to start like capturing stuff and fishing for things, and like I want my research content. So it's quite strange to be writing a talk by playing games and waiting for ads to appear. But nevertheless, this is what the MITM web framework looks like. So at the top, where you got the like yellow thing, you've got squiggly m get, which basically means highlight all the get requests. So every time my phone requests for something, I want to see that. But also highlight all the requests that are videos, right? And for me, this is important because specifically at the time of playing, every time my phone requests a video, I can see, okay, this is probably a video from my ad, and I want to see it what it is, right? So this is the response from video, and you can see there's a couple of things that like don't really matter, but basically like if I want to change what this video sends back, I'll need to actually change the response content. Okay, cool. So I found the video, which is nice. But what about playable ads? Well, playable ads look something like this, right? Which is much in the same way when you send a request to get a video. This time, the phone sends a request to get a web page, right? And you can see up here, it's just like a HTML web page. Okay, and this is what the response for that web page looks like. So the URL looks something like this. You can actually go to this URL. We'll do so now. And then we have the game from before. So you can play it and like shoot a bunch of stuff. This is much harder to play on a laptop. Yeah, so this is the other cool thing that it changes, because it just runs on whatever screen it has, and like this will run on Android and iPhone. Cool, so this web page will run on both Android or iPhone or whatever. And if I press play, it thinks I'm like on an Android phone, right? But if my headers were like iPhone, it would be an iPhone instead. But back to what I wanted to talk about. I can just inspect what this entire HTML is, right? If I can right-click. No. OK, I pressed one button. All right, so this is the HTML file I get back. If I can scroll a little bit. It's laggy for some reason. Anyway, there's this HTML file, and basically it has some basic metadata, and then it has a script that runs this script down here, which is this file, right? And thanks to the magic of Chrome, we can prettify this one-line gigantic script, and it becomes about about 30,000 lines of JavaScript. I'm not going to read 30,000 lines of JavaScript because I don't know JavaScript that well. But just skimming it with a bit of background, it leads me to the belief that it's just someone's written a game in Unity, and there's some function in Unity that lets you export it to JavaScript. So please feel free to completely read every single line and see if it's doing anything fishy. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's doing anything fishy. Cool. Enough of that. Let's get back to this. Cool. OK. So yes, what are playable ads really? They're just web pages that run JavaScript, which is an important note. And so, you know, like at some point, you kind of get sick of waiting for these like these rare playable ads to come up. Like at some point before, like a year ago, I would get them like almost every single time. But now I would get them like once every 5 times. And I don't really have a game that gives me an ad every 5 seconds, which I would love to have had. But you know, eventually you get a little bit sick of it, and you think, OK, well, how do I speed up this process? I want to test more things, and I want to keep going. And the thing you really notice is that all of this other data is kind of useless except for this, this red circle, right? So if we look at it a bit closer, it's only about 3 letters followed by 2 numbers and then a date. And so I'm thinking, maybe I can brute force all of this. Maybe I can just find all the ads that exist on the server. How long would that take me? It's about like 600 million URLs, which I guess you could do over like a week or a month. But as I collected more and more of these ads, I realized that none of them were ever the same. The first couple three kind of had a similar pattern, but you can see like one starts with 2 digits, and the other starts with, and like another one just starts with 2 letters and so forth, right? So I couldn't guarantee that if I was to run like one script that would search for all these, I would actually get anything back. Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind is that eventually, sometimes I would just get hashes instead. So this isn't something I could look into. But if I go back to what was happening before, the phone would request the video would, the request would come to me, and then I would send that request to the server for the phone, because I'm in the middle. But what I really want to happen is that when the phone sends me a request for a video, I'm just going to throw that request away, right? I'm not going to ask the internet, like, hey, give me this video that this ad wants. Like, no. I'm going to send my own video back, right? Which is like this red arrow here. And so I wrote some code to try this, and this is what I got. So we press undo, we get a black screen. There's nothing else except the speaker button, and then it goes away. And essentially, like, nothing happened. Like, this is a bad outcome for us. And I really tried a lot of things here. I tried like replacing the video with a video I got before from like a normal ad, or I tried to make the response look more legit by like making my own request instead of replacing things, or like updating the hashes or correcting the length. I tried using the web client, but I always had the same issue and I could never get it to work. So I thought, okay, well, like we need to go deeper. Like this isn't enough. I can't keep doing this to myself. So instead of only looking for the final request that we were getting, I was looking at all the requests, right? I was like, okay, well, what are all the requests that are happening whenever I load an ad, right? And it's kind of strange because the phone would load an ad before the video was run. So you can kind of do like psychic experiments, because like, I know you're going to run this ad next. It's like, yeah, I was right. This is cool. But anyway, that also kind of made it hard to know exactly what part of the requests are actually specific to the ad that I'm about to load. But eventually, I found this auction URL, which is right before the video ad, the video download that you'd see here. And if you don't know, like ad auctions are this thing that happens that like companies get to decide like how much money do they want to spend to make sure that someone gets an ad, right? Because maybe Google will pay $1 million, whereas some other company will pay like $5 or whatever, right? And so these auctions happen every single time you try and load an ad. But in particular, we want to see when we request one of these auctions, like what data are we sending? And in the top, you can see there's like a tracking ID, which in my case is all zeros because I've disabled ad tracking on my phone. But there's also some other things like what platform are you running and what version are you running and so forth. But we can take a look at the content that it sends, which is just the JSON object. And some of the interesting stuff it sends is like what operator you're running, which is quite strange, right? Like why do they need to know I'm running Telstra? Also, how much free space does my phone have? Which kind of makes sense because if you're caching the ad and you have no space to cache it, then you probably shouldn't download it. It also tells them whether I'm using a wired headset or not, like if I have headphones plugged in, as well as what my volume is. And I can kind of get an idea of why they would do this. But I don't know for what reason you would use this. There's also some other things, like whether I've opted out of something. I haven't for some reason. I don't know how to opt out. If someone knows, please let me know. There's also this GDPR enabled, and I assume that's false because I live in Australia and so forth. Some other things that are related to my device are also something like what model is my phone, right? An iPhone 8,4 is actually an iPhone SE, if you really want to know. There's also things like whether my device is currently charging and what battery level it's at. And It's also got things like, what is my phone incapable of? ATM in this case stands for like the atmospheric pressure sensor, because the newer phones have that. And then it also tells them like whether my phone is jailbroken or not. I don't know, one, like how they would know this, and two, why this is useful. And lastly, like they've got the UI sizes, or IU sizes, which is basically like what size should the videos I send back be in. Cool. Some other stuff it sends is what ads I've already cached from before. So in this case, it's got like a bunch of hashes which are related to some ad. And this basically is like, okay, don't send me this ad again because I already have the content for it. And then also it's got this data structure here, which is essentially like, at what point do I want to send you what kind of ads? So we've got things like crash undo, which is the undo thing you saw before. There's also another button in the game that gives you free coins if you watch an ad. And then there's this video thing here. I don't really know what it means. I assume it's basically like just for general things. But in these data structures, you can also say like, what ad types can I accept? And we've got like the normal video ads, display, which I have no idea what it means, and MRAID, which means Mobile Rich Media Ad Interface Definitions. You can Google that. I'm not going to explain that. But it's basically like a little structure for you to be able to send these kind of things. Lastly, we have things like whether you're allowed to skip the ad, right? You would have seen in one of the ads, it like gives you like a skip button at the top, and some of them it doesn't, depending on like what kind of reward are you going to get out of it. And there's also like this auction type, like how you're going to do this auction. In this case, it's like clicks per 100,000 views or something like that. Cool. Okay, so that's all the data it sends. Now, the data it responds back is what we care about, right? We want to see what can we change about the response that we're getting back. And we can take a look at the content we get, and in this case, this is what the content is like. And notably, we have this like tracking thing. We're like, oh, this is cool, let me take a look at this. And the tracking is a bunch of links in arrays that are run when you do certain things throughout the ad. So maybe you might like click on the ad, and every time you click on the ad, it's going to send the tracking server, hey, this person clicked on the ad at this time, or whatever, right? Or you'll get like, or certain requests will be sent when you go through a certain point in the ad, right? Like there's a midpoint, there's a first quartile, third quartile, and so forth, right? There's also things like whether you skip the ad, maybe you just didn't like it, and also like whether you click the ad at the end, and so forth. Cool. And the other notable thing we want to look at is this content, right? And this content strangely holds a string, which is a JSON object. Like, I don't know why you would do that. Maybe there's some reason for this, but I also realized that like sometimes in different parts of my research, I found that like it would nest content 3 times inside this string, and you would have to like recursively unnest every string that you found that was a JSON object. Anyway, if we take that data and we turn it into an object, this is what we get. And most notably, you'll see there's like a game name, which is in our case soap cutting. Soap cutting is great. And also like the rating for the game and the URL that would be clicked on if you ever click on the ad. I thought, okay, cool, I could probably replace these, but that's not really what I'm into. Let's try replacing the game icon, right? Let's start simple. So I hosted some content online, and I just replaced that string with my own. And now, when I send the request, when my phone sends the request, I can look at it and say, okay, cool. It's actually given my URL as the URL it gets for the game icon. So here's an example of that. So this is a palm reading game. And it reads your palm and tells you when you'll fall in love and how many kids you'll have. So it's very interesting. But at the bottom, at the bottom you'll see there's like a red icon, which is the icon I put in. So yeah, woo! And then this red icon should actually be this icon you see at the top here, right? And all I basically did was I grabbed that icon from the last time the game was ran, and I just replaced it by changing the hue and saturation and just doing a very simple replacement, because I thought, well, okay, it might want it in a specific data format, or maybe there's something it's checking. If I just change the color, maybe you won't notice, right? So yeah, cool, it works. And I thought, okay, well, if I can replace the game icon, I want to be able to replace the image at the end of the screen, right? So at the top, you have like the URL for the image that displays whether it's landscape or portrait. Okay, and I can just replace those. And here's another example. This is another interesting game where you collect cubes, and you can draw a bigger scoop, and then you can collect more cubes. And then so I just replaced that time with an image of like, hi mum. I just drew whatever I wanted and just saw how it would go. But yeah, I hope you're well. Cool. Okay, so that's well and all, but now I want to actually replace the video, right? Pictures don't mean anything. I want to like change the main content of the ad. So in this case, we have these couple of items at the bottom, which are like trailers. Some of them are for the landscape video, some of them are for the portrait, and one of them is for the streaming video. And I assume the streaming one is sent when you don't have enough space on your phone, so you can just watch it live. But I thought, okay, I can just host my own video online and see what happens. So I replaced the URLs, and this is what I got. I got the same thing as before, right? It just black screens. It's as if nothing happened. Like, oh no, not again, right? But you know, I had this extra data available to me. Why don't I change that as well? Like, let's make this look as legit as it could. So I changed the video size, and then this is what I got. So we press open, and you get this like 5-second video, right? And I just like, I just did like these very quick hacks to just see if it works. And all I basically did was I got like an image, I made sure it's the same size as the normal video should be, and I just drew, like added some text, and then I like used FFmpeg to make it some duration long video, right? But the good thing was that it works, and I've proved that like I can replace the videos in these ads. So, did I go? Oh yeah, so the other thing I wanted to do was see whether I could change the length, right? Like before it was 5 seconds, which already isn't meant, like normally they're meant to be 30 seconds. What if I could just make it 1 second, right? Like I could just make the ad speed by like as if nothing ever happened. And here's an example of that. I have like the free coins button. Normally it won't let you skip, but in this case I just made my video 1 second and I could just skip right past, right? I'm like, yes, I got free coins, I didn't do anything. Like, yes, right? Which is great. The other nice thing about this is that the company also gets money for this, right? Because to them, it's as if they've just gotten a normal like ad, and you've clicked on it normally or whatever. But to me, like it's only happening to me, right? So I'm right under their nose. They don't know. Okay, cool. But now I want to get to the main part, right? Which is how do I change these playable ads, right? So I waited for a playable ad to come up. And you can tell it's come up because you've got this like mraid URL, right? This mraid URL is the one we saw earlier. And we can just, like, here it is again. It's just a HTML page in a string. So we can just change it and see what happens. So here's me pressing undo again. And now I've changed the URL to load Hacker News, right? Like, this is great. So now I can like read the news while I'm playing a game, I can tap on certain links. It's also very slow because it's not meant to do this. But you know, I've clicked on a link and it's like loaded this website as normal. It's loaded the JavaScript as well. There's only one problem, which is that I can't scroll. And I tried doing the thing where like you could select text and then drag the little thing down, but that doesn't seem to work either. But yeah, like I managed to replace a game ad with just my own website, which is great. And then the game continues and it goes on as normal. Cool. Okay, so the other thing it got me thinking was like, if this is a playable ad, and this is what a video ad looks like, how does it know what the difference is, right? Like the game ad has this mraid URL, but the playable ad doesn't. And this is the request that was being sent, like this is the content we got before. And you'll notice that it's got this ad type video. Even though this is a game ad, it still displays it as a video, which is very confusing, right? Like why would you do this? You have the data type to support it. And it just turns out that you can just add this mraid URL to any video, any ad you get, and it will just instantly transform it into a playable ad, which is great, right? Because now all my ads can be playable ads. Yes, I can watch the news all the time. Cool. So what now, right? I've done all this. Where do you take this? So theoretically, you can install a certificate on your phone and the server that you're running, and then change your DNS client to such that whenever a certain URL loads, like the ones we were getting before, which is unity.ads, etc., it points it to your server, and then your server can make these requests for you and then just send them back as you wish. So that means that you can basically not have a proxy running all the time, but have all your ads be replaced by your own videos or your own website or maybe your own Bitcoin miner. So every time you open an ad, it starts mining Bitcoins. And you can do all of this through the inner server. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. If you have any questions, just raise your hand.
Hi. So I noticed right at the end there when you had the playable ads, you still had a timer there. Did you end up figuring out the mechanism that holds the timer there?
I didn't get to that point. I think at some point when I was replacing both the video and the playable ad, it was taking the time of the video but still displaying the playable ad. So I think if I send both, it will think the video is only 5 seconds long but still send me the ad that I can click around through. But I didn't get time to delve into that.
Anyone else? No?
At the back?
Here we go. One more.
Hi, thank you. Have you, looking forward, I'm sure everyone's thinking, how can you force this code back into the real server and compromise them?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Looking forward to the future, have you thought of somehow getting to the source and putting in, and taking out the annoying things and teaching them a lesson?
Yeah. In theory, I think you could do it, but it would mean the person who downloads your app would have to install their own certificate, which is just generally a bad idea because then you could just sign your own content however you want and then read their websites and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. And then you could also, help us all do this.
Sorry?
Oh, it would be great that we could all do this as well.
Yeah. You personally could do it yourself, but making it actually turning it into an app would not be a wise thing to do for the user's sake, yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
We have time for one more.
Have you considered reporting this to Unity so they can turn on certificate pinning? I know these ads are terrible, but there still are risks to people.
Yeah, I haven't considered it because I kind of like am enjoying this at the moment. But that's a good point. I will message them and let them know. Thank you. The audience is going, no, don't do this, but it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Big round of applause for Evan.
Thank you.